offering more financial aid to low-income families. But, and not that that's not the intention of some universities, certainly Berkeley would be true. I can't represent it would be true for Stanford, but it's certainly true for Berkeley. But another advantage of that is that you recognize that low-income families don't have the same willingness to pay for the education of their children as high-income families. So as a result, that's a way of at least economically discriminating. Quantity discounts. The example that I love is when you walk into a movie theater and there's a small box of popcorn that costs $4, and there's another box of popcorn that costs $5. Something's amiss here. And what's amiss is that this is an instance of price discrimination, quantity discrimination, because generally speaking, for most of us, our willingness to pay declines as the quantity that we purchase goes up, right? Just like a demand curve is downward sloping. That says nothing more than that your individual demand is downward sloping. And movie theaters tend to take advantage of that. Okay, public policy toward monopolies. There are antitrust laws that are out there which were introduced to create disincentives for companies abusing their monopoly power. The two major acts are the Sherman Antitrust Act, the Clayton Act. They're briefly described in your readings for today. On the regulation side, we talked about at the beginning of the lecture, government agencies end up controlling what a monopolist, a natural monopolist, would charge in the way of prices. And the issue that arises there's a nice little graphical analysis in your textbook that I invite you to go back and review. Namely, you can't use marginal cost pricing if the average total cost curve is steadily declining over all relevant volumes, right? And the reason for that is that can only happen if the marginal cost is below the average total cost, right? Average total cost is decreasing so long as the marginal cost is below it. But if the marginal cost is below it, as Hannah, was it Hannah? You described the computation on the profitability for monopolists, right? So Hannah, when it turns out that average total cost is declining and the marginal cost below it, and the regulator comes along, the PUC that we talked about earlier, and says you have to set prices at your marginal cost, what would be the profits for that natural monopoly? What would they be? They'd be negative, exactly. They would be negative, just taking her little profit rectangle. If the price is below the average total cost, you've got negative profits. They can't stay in business. So as a result, you can't use marginal cost pricing. And the regulator would avoid that particular cost. And that's the last point on this particular slide. So the regulator would have to offer a subsidy with regard to the monopolist if they were also going to require them to set prices at the marginal cost. Okay? Public ownership is another solution. U.S. Postal Service used to be a public monopoly. Is it today? Pardon? I heard it was going to go out there the way they are. Yeah, well, that's in part because entry has taken place, and there's all sorts of competitors out there for that form of communication and distribution. FedEx, right? UPS, except email, and more important, you're quite right, far more important than email. So as a result, this is the final slide with regard to monopolies. And in conclusion, a pure monopoly is very rare. Many firms, however, have market power, and that market power, to repeat, is due to selling a unique variety of a product, having a large market share and few significant competitors or substitutable products. And as a result, most of the results that we talked about hold for a few sellers in the market, all of which have market power. It's not as clean as a single firm, as in the case of monopoly, and we'll see that when we look at oligopolistic market structures on Thursday. All right? Thank you.